world of technology with Matthew Dickerson on Tech Talk. Here on TCFM 88.9.
Morning, Matthew.
Always smiling, even though we've got very strange times indeed at the moment, Richard.
Oh, mate, yeah, terrible times. Now, I think this is a great idea, and I know when we were on council, we looked at something like this, but Bunbury in Western Australia got rid of the brown bombers who nick us for parking, and it's a good system. You might like to explain how it works.
Well, they've actually kept the brown bombers, but they've changed their roles ever so slightly. Paid parking was introduced in Bunbury with a bit of controversy about 4 years ago, and some of the retailers were really worried about people not coming down to their CBD and not parking and therefore losing business. So they came to a compromise where you could park for a couple of hours for free, and then after that you'd start to be charged. But when you pulled up, you had to go and get a ticket from a machine like you do in most places where there's paid parking, put it on the dashboard so people could come along and see it. The brown bombers would check, make sure you were legitimately parked there. But they've come up with a better system now, and it's using technology, of course. So the idea is now they'll remove those machines where you go and pay for your parking. Everyone gets a certain number of hours of free parking, and it's different in different areas. It might be 2 hours in some areas, 3 hours in other areas. And effectively what happens is you'll park your car, sensors will detect that your car is parked there. And then after a certain amount of time, say it's 2 hours, if you're still there, then the brown bomber will be notified and they'll come around and they'll give you a ticket. So you can't buy more parking as such. It just gives you that certain amount of time for free. But it means that you're not going and mucking around with a machine. You're not trying to get the ticket out and put it on your dash. You just pull up, park. As long as you're there no longer than the set amount of time, you know you're safe. You're not going to get a ticket, and away you go. If you go over...
Okay, question.
Sure.
So you're there for 1 hour and 55 minutes for free, and you move your car 2 parking spots down, and stay for another 2 hours. How are they going to detect that?
Well, these sensors are clever enough because that's what they were finding was happening as well, that people would park in one spot, they'd come back and they just shuffle down a little bit and keep staying in the same area but not really turning over car parks. And that's what retailers want. They want people churning through, turning over, not just sitting in one spot and being there all day. So these sensors are clever enough to pick up if you're moving down just a few car parking spots. So they want you to get out and actually move somewhere else in the CBD. So it sounds like it's got that side of it covered, it's got convenience covered, and they'll still get that turnover of vehicles. So I think it's a great system.
I think it does. Okay, if it does that, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's very good, as a matter of fact. Okay, scam warning. Have you missed a parcel lately? Did you receive a text letting you know? I get these all the time, say you've got a parcel, and apparently it's the most common scam trick at the moment.
Well, it is. Actually, in Europe, it's really big. The parcel scam is going off. It's called Flubot. Is this particular... You know you've really made it as a scammer, don't you, when you get a whole scam named? So this is called Flubot. Now, in Australia, it started off with parcel deliveries, but it's actually moved on now to voicemail. So lots of people are getting messages over the last week that says you've missed a voicemail. Click on this link and you can actually listen to your voicemail. And so some people think, oh, that's fair enough. It's a voicemail. How can anything go wrong there? How can I possibly be scammed out of any money if I click on that to listen to my voicemail? When you click on the link, it then says, install this app to listen to your voicemail. And you might have a few little alarm bells going off then, Richard. You might think, why do I need an app to listen to my voicemail? Normally I just ring 101 or I can listen to it on my phone. If you click on that to install that app to listen to your voicemail, you're not really installing a voicemail app. You're actually installing some malware on your phone, and that's when the damage starts occurring. 2 things will then happen. Your address book will be used to then start to send out more messages via your phone, but more importantly, it puts an overlay on everything you do on your phone. So when you go into your banking program and type in your password, for example, go into any of your sensitive information, type in that information, all the information you're typing is being sent off to the scammer. So you're innocently there thinking, well, that wasn't a scam, nothing's happened, everything's okay. Meanwhile, everything's being sent off. And then you might check your bank account one day and say, gee, I'm sure I had a couple $100 in there yesterday and now it seems to be zero. What's gone wrong? And that's when obviously the scammers have gotten to the point where they've basically taken all your information and then used that to raid your bank account. And that's typically what these scammers are after. They want to get money. They'll dress it up in a whole range of different ways, but ultimately that's what they're after, is money.
Yeah, tragic stuff. All right. Now, I can't understand this one. You may be able to explain it, but the UK government want to record our cough, or they want to record English people's cough. for COVID-19 detection. How does that work?
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting one. There's a whole range of different ways that we're trying to work out better ways to detect if someone's got COVID-19. The current method is a bit unpleasant when you have it done. You know, you get things stuck up seemingly in the back of your brain, just about through your nose and the back of your throat. but then the testing process takes a fair amount of time as well. We've talked about breath testing, just like a random breath test. But the latest one is the UK government is actually getting people that have had a COVID-19 test to then record their breathing, reading out a certain sentence, and coughing into their phone, and then sending off those audio samples to the UK government. And it's based around something that happened in America. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology did similar sort of testing, and they were getting about 98.5% success rate or accuracy rate of testing whether someone had COVID-19 just from their cough alone. So you can imagine how much better it would be. The more we can get testing done, the quicker it can be. I can imagine you'll get to the point where if they can get the algorithm good enough to give you a test and say, yes, that 98.5% accuracy, for example, you can have an app on your phone, cough into your phone, you've got COVID, go and get tested properly, or no, you look like you're clean, go on about your day. And I think this is part of the secret of beating COVID is, yes, vaccination number one, but number two, getting the testing so it's easy enough and quick enough that more people can be tested and we can pick up things that start to happen before you get an outbreak.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. I think it's a good one. And finally today, I just don't like this idea, buying a car completely online. I mean, why would you buy a car online? The first thing you do is, I like that car, I like the colour, I like the seats, yeah, it's tidy, it's a good late model second-hand car. Can I drive it? I mean, isn't that the bottom line? You do a test drive before you buy a second-hand car?
That's normally the process. And car sales...
Normally the process. I think it is the process.
Well, it is. And car sales are finding that about 37% of people are happy to buy a second-hand vehicle on car sales, but only 1% of those deals took place completely online. In other words, as you said, you might find it online, you go and visit, you kick the tyres, you take it for a drive, make sure it looks like it's all okay, and away you go. But because of this pandemic, we're changing the way we do so many different things. And car dealers are out there now, they're actually selling some cars completely online where you can actually go and order the brand new car and order it. But that's a bit different because it's brand new. So you figure it's probably not going to have worn wheel bearings or have a motor that's a bit clapped out or have some torn seats. It's brand spanking new. But for a second-hand car, it's a little bit different. You feel like you want that. But car sales believes that if they can get the model right, people will be comfortable buying their car completely online because of the inability for us to go and visit someone and have a look at a car. It might be then put on a truck and shipped over to you or whatever it might be. But so there's a few things they've put in place. They've got an inspection test. So there's a pre-inspection test that you can have done automatically, a bit like the NRMA have done for years, where you can have an inspection done that's not you kicking the tyres, but it's someone that actually probably knows a bit more about the car that kicks the tyres in the first place. The other part they're doing is they're doing a 7-day money-back guarantee to give you that confidence that it's all okay. Now, I don't know how that works. If I put my car on car sales, for example, and someone bought it, and then they wanted to exercise that 7-day money-back guarantee, how does that work? Do I have to give the money back? Presumably it must be the case. So it's only very new from car sales. These are new ideas they're coming up with to try and address the different ways that we're acting and working in this current environment that we're in. But yeah, it sounds a bit scary, doesn't it? Buying a second-hand car without seeing it, without smelling the leather, without touching it. Yeah, but I think we'll talk about this in a year's time, and I think we'll be surprised how many people are actually doing it.
Yeah, well, I won't be.
You always buy new cars anyway, so it's not affecting you.
I won't be. Good talking with you, Matt. We'll catch up with you next week here on Tech Talk.
Right, thanks, Richard.